Hello and greetings for our next painting. What I'd like to share with you is we're going to paint a vase with a rose and a tablecloth. I think it's going to be exciting. Now I want to go through a few of the steps up front and where you can get the media for this. So this is what we're going to paint today. As I just mentioned, this is the photograph that I set up. As you can see, we got a nice tablecloth. We're going to get some detail, so this is going to be a step up from previous stuff we've done. We're going to do some roses. They're kind of small, so we're not going to be paying a super lot of attention. We're just going to want to get the rendering. And we've already done glass now, so we're going to build on that. I want to show you my first shot at it. This is what I painted. And you see, it came out pretty good. So the next thing I want to show you is you need to go to my website and download the stencil. Okay, so let me actually bring this out of the light and show you it. Perfect. Now, what I'd like to do is I'll show you where you can get this. You go to my website, which is www.light-sculpture.com. You go to the homepage. If you want to, you can click here and sign up and join now, and you just sign up here, tell me what your interests are and your email address. And I send out a monthly newsletter of my videos and my blog posts, but I also do a drawing for some stuff. I usually give away an Escoda brush or something of equal nice caliber. But anyways, the reason I really brought you here is you come in here and you click on, let's look at two things. Under painting supplies is a list of everything that I use, colors, both oil, watercolor. You click on the link, it'll take you right to Amazon where that is, and you can buy it. Okay, but more importantly, if you go under class and you go class materials, okay, you'll see there's the photograph for all the stuff we've painted. And what I'm going to start doing is putting up here is you can click on the video, but obviously you're here at the video now, is you can click to download the photograph. So you click here, there's a photograph, you just right mouse click save image as. That'll give you the photograph to print out and then use as your guide. Sorry. And then hang on, I'm gonna have to go back. And then you go class, materials, and you go down, but this is the one that you're gonna want to really pay attention to. You can either do the photograph and trace it yourself, or you can click here and you can get this, which I've done for you. I've already done the carbon transfer. This way you've got the lines and you don't have to second guess, and you can follow me more closely. But if you don't want to do that, you can do what we've been doing all along, and that is you simply take the photograph. You simply take the photograph and you put it over your paper with your carbon underneath, and you'll draw your outlines. Okay? Now, without any more delay, let's begin. Okay, one more thing before we begin. What I did was I went into Photoshop and I took this picture. I cropped out this piece, which you can see here, just the top of the bottle and this, so I get more detail of the roses. And then I went into Photoshop and I went to adjust the image size and set the image size to be 8.5 by 11, or in my case I do 8 by 10.5, something like that. That way it prints out and I get my margins. And then I got a nice big blow up detail. Now obviously we're not going to do this kind of detail in something small, but it gives me a little bit more reference so I don't get lost. So with that, we'll begin and we'll start painting the rose. Okay? Okay, well, let's get started. I'm going to start by taping off stuff. So let's get some tape. Just a heads up, I use this Pro Drafting tape for lots of stuff, for masking or whatnot, because one, it doesn't adhere to the paper in a negative way. Two, you can see through it, so you'll see how I do other stuff later on. So I'm just setting up my borders. We'll come back when we're done. Okay, I've created my borders. we're going to do our background first. So what we're going to do here is just cover this up a little more, and then we're going to come in here and we're going to cover up this. I think you can get this. I used to get this pro masking tape from Cheap Joe's, but they've gone out of business. But I'm sure it's online. So what I will do is I will find where you can get it, and I will put a link to it on my site and in the description below. Okay. Now what's nice is this tape adheres. You can see through it, and I'll show you why that's important in a minute. And I learned this method for masking, one of this methods, or this method, from Lauren McCracken. Okay, so what we've got here is our item masked, and then what I'm going to do is get a razor knife. Okay, and I'm going to go in here and I'm going to cut all this out. So I'll start by just showing you. Okay, and if I cut beyond the rose, it's better to cut over it. I'll explain what I mean when I take a little bit off. Because we'll clean it up later. Although, as much as you can get perfected now, the better, because it's less cleanup later. So, let's come in here and get this. Okay. And I'll show you what I mean. I've got these programmable lights in the lights behind me, so I'm sorry that it keeps going dim and bright. I'll fix that in a second. So you see now we cut out. Now it's better to go beyond the edge of the rose rather than inside, because you obviously don't want to blacken your rose. Okay, where we can always add black around the edges where it isn't. But we're going to do this, and you're going to want to really make sure you burnish this down. And I'll come back after I've cut all this out. Okay, I want to come back to this. I missed this little green leaf that's come out here, so we'll mask that with fluid. Okay, I decided to cut the leaf out of here that's in the original. You see it here. Okay, I cut that out. I just want to erase this a little bit better. Okay, and then I'll hit that with masking fluid. I've got a little bit of a border here that I went inside the rose by accident. Now here's the thing is, when you cut, do not use, first of all, a brand new X-Acto blade. That's important, okay, because it'll cut this really nice. Two, don't push down so hard. You don't need to cut into your paper that much, okay? Those are just the big pointers I can give you on this. Once you're to this phase, we'll begin doing our background, and we'll start that in just a minute. Hello and welcome back. We're going to work on our black background. For now, let me just move these. And I think the first color I'm going to put down is going to be a red. I think I'm going to go for a Quin Rose. So first thing I'm going to do is get a bunch of Quin Rose ready. Sorry, Quin Rose. I hope you can see that. This is my Quin Rose. I grabbed a Quin Red by accident, but I didn't grab much because it was dry. Now what I'm going to do is, because the water's pink, I'm going to lay down. And I use these pucks. You can get them at Dick Blick's to elevate. They come in a set of 4, my pad. And I'm going to start by just getting the background wet. Oh, I forgot to do something. It's okay when I get it. I'm going to do this first. I'm going to get it wet. But I'm going to try to paint around that and then mask it. Hey, see, we all make mistakes. I'm just trying to get this wet first. And it's nice and soaking wet. So let me just mask this one little green spot real quick. I'll paint around it right now while I let it get dry. And I think this brush has seen better days, so I'm going to throw that masking brush out. Okay. Don't worry, I'm not going to get that wet. I'm going to go around it, try to... Normally I wouldn't do this, but I'm just going to let this and then let it dry up a little bit. It's not going to really hurt it. I'll be back in a minute when both those have dried. Okay, we're coming back after it was dry. And I re-wet the paper. And now I'm putting in the layer of Quinn Rose. Okay, and then when this dries, we'll come back. We're going to dump a layer of blue on. I think I like this way of getting my blacks much better than when I used to just do a straight black in. Okay, we'll let this dry. Okay, you can see, look, it's dried, but we got a bloom here, but that's not a big deal because we're putting several layers down. So I'm going to wet this, and we'll put in a blue layer next. Okay, now the paper's all wet, and let's lay down our blue. Let's see, what blue do I want to use? I think I'm going to use the manganese blue. Get some more water. And that's manganese blue, which I believe is the phthalo blue and a white. I think it's like PBW something. Okay, we're going to start coming in with our blue. We're just going to practice those washes. That wasn't very good. So let's get some more paint. Even some more water. And all we're trying to do is create a black by creating multiple layers using any set of 3 primaries, secondaries, or tertiaries, so that they basically, you know, gray each other out to the point of being dark enough that it appears to be black. Okay, and the idea, you know, to add to that, is we'll end up with a really nice black. That'll be a transparent black, which will be good for you if you ever want to enter any of the transparent water shows where I've gotten rejected once because my black was so thick it wasn't considered transparent. So anyways, this is a way to do a transparent black background, one way. So we'll let this dry and I'll be right back. Okay, let's come in here and do our next layer. I'm going to go with, I'm thinking about probably coming down with Indian yellow. Okay, I'll put it over here. And then what I'll do is I'll continue to add these 3 layers over and over again. I obviously won't show them all on all the video till I get the black that I want. And then I'll tell you how many layers I think I did. But that way we don't have to sit there for 2 hours up or whatever. So let's try and practice our wash. And, you know, sometimes I found that I may not get to black. I may get to a color that's a muted or a gray or a bluish gray or a purplish gray that I love as the background, and I stop there. You come up with some really interesting backgrounds, but I'm heading toward black. So let's let this dry, and I'm going to do a number of washes using these 3 colors, and I'll let you know, and we'll be back shortly. Okay, excellent. I've put down a total of 4 washes of each color. Okay, so I've got the manganese blue, I've got the Indian yellow, and I've got the Quinn red. And then I put down 2 final layers using Prussian blue, a little darker blue, and then one of permanent alizarin. Okay, so to me it's like a purplish that you can see through. I'm going to do one last thing that I do sometimes. I want to show you what it is I take a hockey brush. Okay, I think it's Haake. Okay, and I just get it wet. Okay, which you can't see me doing, but I've got 2 mason jars with water in them off screen, and I just bring it across to smooth this out. It just smooths out some of the texture that I may not want. And you don't have to do this, okay? I'm just doing it to smooth out the color, okay? And let me rinse that out. Okay, we're gonna let that dry, come back, and then the moment of truth. How good did I do taping down? So when it dries, hopefully nothing got underneath. That's what I'm praying for. If it did, I'll be starting all over. I won't let you start all over, but I will. And let's let it dry, and I'll be back. Okay, I've taken off all the masking from here in the flower. Lucked out, really lucked out. I didn't really luck out. The masking tape is so good, it rarely, if ever, gives me any problems. What we're going to start on now is, I think I'm going to go into the roses. And I'm going to, the order that we'll do this in, although I tend to not always stick to my order, is we'll do the roses, the leaves, the bottle, the leaves down here, the tablecloth, and the pattern on the tablecloth. So let's get ready. I'm going to clean my water, clean my palette, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm going to lay the base foundation in first. Like I said, I always print out like a photo reference to guide me. And you can either use the one that's this size, which should be sufficient. I'm using this even though I'm not going into that much detail. I'm going to set it over here to the side. Okay, I've zoomed in for now. I'll probably zoom out, but I wanted to be able to show you that I got the detail that I need. Okay, so when you do your tracing, I want to go through something with you. I want to go to here. Okay, and let me see if I can blow this up. No, I can't. Okay, that's about as big as I can get it. But if you download this, you print it out on paper, and then you trace, my lines and what I've done. If you choose not to do that, and you choose to go to the photograph, I just want to urge you to do one thing that's critical. Is go for shapes. Okay, so here, let's talk about this for a second. The rose here, well, let me show the painting and then I'll show what I did in the picture. I took some liberties, cut some things out that I didn't want, and then went for the shape. So the shape is for the most part a canonical form, right? It's a cylinder, okay, with a circle. Okay, same thing here. We're just getting the side view of it with some of the leaves rolled back. Okay, and then over here we're getting it at kind of at an angle like this. Okay, and again though, it's got the top and it's got the sides as though it was a can. And if you think of it in shapes, you're never going to really go wrong. I used to, in my earlier days, and every now and then I still get caught up in it, when I'm doing the transfer, I'll sit here from my photograph and I'll start just doing all these lines, and you may not need them. I mean, we're not Xerox copiers, so let's interpret some of the stuff ourselves. So in here, over here, for my first wash, all I want to be careful of is that I don't wash green stuff. Okay, so if you notice, there's this leaf here. I took it out. I just didn't think it was important. Okay, now I know everything down here, so this is going to be pink. I'm going to start out with this is going to be pink, this is going to be pink, and why I'm doing pink is there's no real whites in any of these. The lightest color is this pink in here and over here and over here. So my first color isn't going to be the white of the paper, it's going to be the pink. So, and again, if we want our roses to look like roses, we're going to follow that form. This is a cylinder. This is a cylinder straight on, and this is a cylinder at kind of an angle. So let's start now by laying in, and I'm going to go with Quin Rose, okay, which is this color right here. I'm going to go with a really, really light application of it. Like, that's way too pink for now. So I'm going to water it down, yeah, and come over here. And here's another decision point. At this point, do you want to wet and go wet into wet or not? I at times will go a wet and let it almost dry so that I hide brush strokes. I'm not as important here because it's a first glaze. So let's go here. Now I'm going to do this. I'm going to go with this guy here. Okay. And I'm going to zoom out a little bit because now you know that I've got lines I'm going with. Okay. I'm just using this right now to avoid painting stuff that's green. Like, there's a green here that I cut out for the most part. There's a green here. So I don't want to get pink on the green. And what's cool here is because we got our black background, we just don't want to get it too wet to where we start pulling the black into our rose. So let's just avoid that. But if you accidentally go over there, just be careful it doesn't get too wet and you drag it in. If it does, you can lift it out. Because watercolor will reactivate. You could have said, Chris, why didn't you mask the green? Because I think I can paint around it. Okay, this guy is down here. Alright, so I've got all of him. Now I'm going to come over and get this person. There's a little green here. Now I got to be careful about this. I want to get this. Okay, so this little green spike comes up here, but where is this one? That's this guy right here, and he comes up through into here. So I'm just going to be careful. I think I cut this piece out and didn't do it, just ended it here, if you see here, which is perfectly fine. And this is all part of the rose. So we're also, not only are we creating our first glaze, we're creating our map. I will say this, if you don't draw, it's a great time to start that skill too. You don't, I shouldn't say you don't need it for painting. You know, for me, the primacy is there's two skills. There's more than two, but two that I'm going to focus on for the point of this conversation. Is there's two skills required in this type of watercolor painting. Is really good still life photography, okay, which is that's an art all in of itself. You know, it's kind of funny. I've entered a few competitions that have photographers. See there, I did it. I activated that, pulled it in. So now the nice thing is that's a dark part of the rose. Okay, I'm just going to lift that out. Okay, and just try to, because it's damp right now, I'm not going back there for a minute. I'm going to let that dry. But I want to come back down here. As I've entered competitions, there's photographers, and I'm like, man, I've got still life photography that's better than that, because I put as much into my photography as I do into my painting. Okay, let's come up through here. The green comes up in here. I think I've only got it into here. Okay, I'm being real careful how close I come to that edge. That was just dumb of me because I dragged all that in. Okay, now our next pinks will be in here, so let's just be real careful about that. So anyways, so still life photography, and I'm going to do some stuff. I'm setting up still life composition for it. So this is green, this is green, all this is green. This is the only pink area, and then this in here, and then this here. And let's be real careful about that edge. Okay. So anyways, the photography is critical, and it's no less important than the painting. You've got to get your lighting right. You've got to get your shadows right. You know, you can have a really bad painting if your photography wasn't good to begin with. So there you go. Now, what replaces photography? Well, your imagination and drawing. So if you don't want to set up still lifes and you want to draw sketches, which I do a little bit of that, I just love the photography, and there's just a lot of stuff I can't draw from imagination. I mean, you know, the various toys and things that I do. So anyways, so then we move on from that. The next phase is you'll find your painting will make you a better photographer, because you'll know when you're painting that, oh geez, I didn't get the lighting right on this, or hey, I'm missing a shadow that's critical to have. And so, you know, for me, you know, if anyone tries to take away from you that, hey, well, you did a transfer of an image and now you're painting it, isn't that like paint by numbers? Well, you paint, and as you paint, you realize how much skill there is to painting. There is so much when it comes to value, tone, shade, and rendering. So we're going to let this dry, and we're going to come back to it, and I'm going to spend some time thinking about the bottle. But I just want to finish that part of that conversation. So basically the two most critical skills for what we're doing here are your still life photography, unless someone gives you a really good medium to paint, and painting, your painting skills. And then a third one that you will find if you start doing drawing and sketching, I would urge you to get a sketchbook and sketch every day, sketch compositional ideas. You will find your painting will get better, because you'll start looking at things like, this is a cylinder, this is a straight-on cylinder, this is that, and you won't get lost in the detail. So until this dries, I'll talk to you in a few minutes. Okay, we're back. And what I've done is I've just masked out where those leaves are and the leaf areas around this rose, just because I want to be a little more free. And I noticed I was working really hard to get around those edges, which is probably pretty good because it's good practice in doing that. But what I'm going to do now while that dries is come in here and put the first glaze on the bottle. And I'm going to use cobalt blue, but I'm going to really, really thin it out. So it's almost like a sky blue. It's not a nice deep blue. I want it to be super, super light, because if we look at this, we'll go back to this now. Those may look white, but they're not. They're very light blue, these lines. So those are going to be our highlights. So I'm going to come in here with this lightest blue possible. It's a very watered down, like tea consistency. And we don't really have to worry because we're going to glaze in over this. So we're not going to be doing any highlights at this point. When this dries, we'll go in with our masking fluid. And again, we want to do the same thing. We want to be really careful we don't activate that black paint. Which I know people, Lauren McCracken, who taught me a lot of what I know, that's what he does. He paints his backgrounds last. I'm okay with that, and I've done it for a long time, and I'll switch back at times and do that. The only reason I go back and forth, call me fickle, but is because when you do that, you got to do the same thing where you mask, but you're masking your painting after it's painted and cutting it out. So it's just, it's really tomato. I just think I like this way. I haven't run into too many problems of where I do that, because if you see, I come in, and when the bottle here, you notice the black didn't come up to the bottle, so I'm going to have to come back and do black anyways, because I cut out too liberally or too conservatively, however you want to look at it. Okay. I got the mask perfect on this side, but what I will do is I'll mask this line here, and then I'll go do that black, because I'm not going to want to. I'm not going to want that to bleed in. Okay, and we will let this dry. I touched that leaf, but that's okay. That leaf's going to be darker and green, so I'm not paranoid. We don't want to get on our white though. Okay, we're going to let that dry. We're going to let the masking fluid dry, and we'll be back. Okay, let's come in here and mask the glass and then work on the rose. So I've got my cheap Amazon brushes, and again, they're on my website, which is in the link below, where you can get them. I'll show you, it's like $15 for a bag like this. Okay, so I'm going to do a couple things. I'm going to mask all the very light brights, and I'm sorry, that's my dog. Okay, now we're going to let that dry there. And then I'm going to come in and I'm going to do the next lightest blue, which is this kind of blue violet in here. Not this one, that's more violet, but this area. So we're going to paint this next. And we'll go from there. I may mask, I may not. And again, this stuff, this Richardson's, this is really good. So I just dip the brush in here, wipe it off, and that stuff comes off pretty darn good. I've had this bottle for like a year now. I probably need to get more, but it's Richardson's mask cleaner. Richardson's. Okay. Now let's start on the rose while that's drying. Okay, I've got my reference photos. Where to begin? I think I want to work on this rose because I think it's the easiest. So let's fix this. I got a little X in there, meaning I wanted to keep it light. Okay, so and again, not to go, I'm gonna try to do what I've done in here. I mean, what the photograph relays, but also what it is if you can see, this is kind of the opening. This is a leaf on the other side. This is a leaf turning down. So let's just paint this leaf here first. So the first thing is there's this light here, but then we're gonna go with a dark right across here. So let me get my reds over here. And I think I can stick with Quinn Rose for now. Just going to use it a little bit darker. Because there's purple in here. And we're going to add that later, but let's just do this. Now I'm going to just try to lift. This is blotter paper. You just get it off Amazon. I'm just trying to lift a little bit of that color out. Okay, but that's okay. Now I'm going to come in here, and we're going to go with a lighter pink that comes down to this green. I'm trying to do these light pieces in here. Okay, and then around this green one we got a little bit more of this. Because I masked it, I can paint through it like this. Okay, right. And then I'll do this and this. And you know what will help distress you a little bit is you don't have to paint the rose exactly as the photograph is. Okay. Again, I'll say it again. We're not Xerox copiers. What you want to do is walk away and say, "Yeah, I've captured the rose." Okay. It doesn't have to be exact, unless that's what you're shooting for. Okay. Now it's this area in here, and it comes down into here, and this is a darker. Now, normally I'd use a 2-brush method, but I don't have the time, the drying time, to hold 2 brushes for this. And I'd use the other brush the way I'm using this, where I just hit that. I hit the sponge over here. I'll move this over to kind of just dry my brush out but keep it damp to blend these. Okay. Now this up against here is this darker. Oh, and it's going to get darker. I'm just putting in the second value. Okay, feeling pretty good about that. This comes down here, it gets a little bit dark in here. Okay, don't worry, we're going to come back in with the darkers, probably a purple, and add in there. But right now we're just trying to get this piece in. And I'm going to go to the lighter again, more washed out. And granted, this is getting more red than pink, but we'll address that. Okay. Don't worry, we don't have the separation right here yet that we want. But we're going to come in and hit this with the darker red. Hit this with the darker red. Okay, now let's come in and grab, do we want the, no, maybe, that maroon, the maroon Paleron. That's nice, that's nice. Let's see. So where it's really dark is this edge here. Right? And then it's a little bit light there, but then it gets nice and dark in here. And again, this is maroon. I think it's Palerion. I'll look at the tube in a second. I just got it as maroon Perry. And we're going to come in here. And we're going to blend this out.
Message on your phone.
Okay. And we're going to come in here and get this a little bit. There's a little dark shape. And I need some water. Okay, and then there's a dark streak in here that we're going to blend out. Okay, that one's coming along. It's coming down through here. Okay, and then we got the dark piece in here. Okay, that's looking good. Now I want to blend this because this doesn't look so great. Just this, there's no transitional value here. Okay, we're going to come back and be tweaking that. Let's go on and do this guy. Well, wait, this is actually dried, so no, you know what, let's do this. So same thing, we're going to come in here, we're going to use this is the lightest, okay? With this is almost white, but it's that very pink, so that's going to be this first one we're preserving. And what'll be critical is cleaning up in here, is coming through and getting transitions, getting those blends coming in real nice. Okay, so let's come in. We're going to stick with this here. Now I'm going to rinse the brush out and just try to get that blending. And I'm going to play with this more. I'm not completely happy with the blending, but that's okay. It allows us to come back. We're going to get right in here, this shadow for this leaf. It's funny, this is almost like an Indian red, if you remember. I mean, my age probably is giving that away, but the crayon, it was like our favorite crayon color back in the day. Well, mine anyways. Okay, that's a hard edge. We got that little shadow in there. Okay. Let's come over to this leaf. This leaf is like really got some serious darks in here. But for the most part, we're going to do this. I'm coming in here, I'm going to get these two. And then it gets really, really dark in here. So we're going to go to this, and we'll probably end up adding purple in over it. Maybe. I want to fade this out a little bit, get it lighter. And again, I'm not always going for the same colors that are there. Like if I were to do this, I would probably go more purple and more of a red leaning toward probably a quin red, but I don't want to. I want to do my thing. Okay, now we're going to come in here with the dark. Okay. And then let me clean this up. Okay, because this here, we got to capture this. So it's dark and then it fades out. So let's go with the darkest of this. That's the Quin Rose. Okay, first. And we'll probably dab a little bit of red into that, but we're dealing with such a small flower. I'm going to probably drop more red into this. I don't like how it's drying that brownish color, but that's fine. I don't like that. Yeah, that's more of a reddish. I'm dropping in dioxazine purple. It's a reddish purple. It's a blue red. Okay, I just want to get these leaves to stand out. Okay, now, what do we got? We got this guy up here. This is very purpley, and that's the Quin Violet. There's like that Quin Violet color here and here. So it's too saturated. Okay, so now this is like an orangish red, but let's just stick with the colors. I don't want it up all over the map. Ooh, I like that. That's starting to come together. I do want to blend this because this just stands out too much. I'm going to keep it lighter, but I don't want it to be just that jumps out white. We'll probably do the same in these areas too. Okay, I'm going to take a break from that right now. And let's come down and do this. So that is we need a bigger brush. Yeah, I get lost myself. Okay, put you down. What we're going to go for is we're going to paint the bottom of this. And this is it's a very light blue. So it kind of starts here and goes down here. We're not going to worry about the shapes yet. I just want to get that blue. Okay, and remember we were using the cobalt. We were washing it out. And I just want to add maybe a tad of ultramarine blue. Okay, and then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually wet the paper. Now let's perfect this. We don't want to go over into the white at all or into the other shapes. So even though they're green or red, we don't really have to worry that much. Okay. Now you notice I didn't mask over here, but my X caught me. So we want to keep that light. So we're not gonna touch this even though it's light. So I'm gonna come in here and I'm just gonna get some of that water out of there. Okay, let's go. I think it's got a little more purple in it. So I'm going to grab a little more ultramarine. I'm going to grab just a dot. Whoa, that was way too much. Wow, that just picked up a lot of pigment. Okay, I'm going to pull that dioxazine over here. There we go. I'm getting the color I want. Look at that. So that's basically cobalt blue really washed out a tiny bit of ultramarine blue and a shade of that dioxazine purple. Yeah, there we go. Okay, I'm going to take a break because when I get lost in this detail, I can tend to mess up. So I just want to come back to it with a fresh head. That's probably a hard lesson to learn in watercolor, is to just get up for a little while. Besides, we got things to dry. I'll be back. Hey, I've been gone in Japan for 3 weeks, so I'm back, and let's get to work. So what I'd like to do is focus on the roses. We've masked all around this one so I could do the wash, if we remember, and we started to work on the bottle a little bit, but I'm going to come back and focus on the roses. So over here on the side I have two. I have a detailed, blown up picture of the roses. Obviously we're doing it much smaller, so some of the detail in here we won't be able to get. And then I got a smaller one just to kind of make sure I stay on course with what that's looking like. So I've got my lights coming in here. I want to do a little bit of blending. Okay, so like this is a kind of a hardish, but there's kind of a hard edge here, here, but it's a little blended. So I want to try to just soften that up a little bit. If you can't see, I'm going to pull some stuff over here. I've got a sponge that I keep wet. And then I've got my bottles over here that are out of view of the camera. You can't really see them, but they're just 2 mason jars with water. So I'm just using that to dampen the brush. And we're working up in here. Okay. Soften this edge. I think that looks pretty decent. This isn't so purple, so I'm going to use, I've got a lifting brush here. And that's that scrubber, creative scrubber. Just got it on Amazon. I love them, they're great. Okay, let's come over here. So this is this guy here. So this guy's light, but it's much darker in here. So I'm going to come in here and grab some of this. It's progressively dark to light. I want to keep this shape here. And we got a light in there. Now coming in here, this is dark. This area, all in here is really, really dark. As is this area. There's a little bit of light that comes through here. And we'll leave that because there's a petal that comes down like this, so it comes down over here. So we'll kind of negative paint that. Okay. Okay, so I got a little bit of purple in here. I want to go over that because it's really not that purpley. Same thing with this one here. Okay, so now we're coming in here, so it's just this guy right here. Right? And we're going to come over here and we're going to grab some of the more reddish. And keep in mind, because we're doing this smaller, we're not going to get the detail. If we made it this big, we'd be going for a lot more detail. We're really just trying to get the sense that it's a rose and the kind of right tonal values. So in here, there's more red. All right, that's looking pretty good. Over here, this is all red. Now I don't want these to bleed together. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. See, this looks almost brown, so I'm going to purple that up in red. I'm going to put some permanent alizarin. Let's get that in there. I don't want that to have a brown. What I added was I added purple, and I don't like that. So let's go in here and clean this up. Or let's say redden it up. Same thing in here. Same thing in here. See how rose is starting to take its shape. And it's starting to look pretty good. Up here, this is really dark. So we're going to come back in here and grab this. Grab this. See, I'm just trying to get the shapes to get the sense of that. Okay, and then let's come back here to our permanent alizarin and keep trying to work with these browns. Yeah, I think I'm liking that. I'm just blending this out. Okay. Let's blend this in. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now let's come down here. So this is all dark, this section in here. Okay, so we're going to go Don't really like that color, so let's go with our dioxazine purple. And first we'll do a layer of red. So this is the alizarin crimson. And this whole section right here is dark. More permanent alizarin. I want to get this whole sense of like okay. I just want to soften this up. Now this is all masked, so we don't have to worry about that, right? Let's just drop a little bit of purple in here. Okay, let's come in here and start working, continue working on this rose. Okay, so you see here, this is lighter. I kind of painted into it. So we're going to come over here and we're going to lift this. Just a little. It's right in here. Now we can't come in here because it's wet and do what I want to do there, so we'll work up in here. So we got, this is kind of an orangey red, so we're going to come in here and deal with that first. So let me come over here and use pinkish. It's not really orange, but I mean it's got a shade of that. Let me see. I'm using Scarlet Pyro and the pink I created over here. So let's come up through here. I'm doing the light stuff first. And look, I'm not trying to copy the photograph. I'm just trying to get the impression that it's a flower. Okay, so don't get hung up. One of my biggest issues when I was learning to paint was I felt like I had to do exactly what was here. And I don't. I'm using it as a map to kind of get the general shape, but I'm not trying to flawlessly imitate. I'm coming in, this is the alizarin crimson to put my darks in the rose. Right? Yeah, that's looking good. Okay, now in here, this is that orangey stuff that I was playing with. So it's Scarlet Pyro, that's the orange. Okay, way too orange. Okay, I'm going to pull a little bit of that over here. Get some pink added in, and there we go. So Scarlet Pyro, and the pink that I was using, I would have said at the beginning, but I believe it was probably the Quin Rose. In fact, here, Quin Rose. Yeah, it's Quin Rose. So let's come in here. Okay. This is right. This needs to get a little pinker and kind of blend. And then back in here we'll add a little bit of red. And again, it's always a challenge painting things with detail that are small, you know. I mean, unless we're going to go out and buy a magnifying glass and work under that all day. But let's see here. Yeah, that's good. Okay, let's see how that looks kind of good. Okay. I'm just taking the red here, kind of blending it into the pink more. And that's starting to look really good. And then I want to just drag the watery version out here to the edge. Lighten that up a little bit. Yeah, that looks good. That looks like a nice little leaf. Okay, over here is nice solid pink. The green is going to come down through there. This is a brighter pink, so let's come in here and kind of pink this up a little bit. Yeah, like that. Now you see what I didn't put in here is like this is dark here, but then it comes dark down here, and then goes up dark over to here. So let me do a little bit of that. Because we want to catch that this is a petal coming up through here. So now let's blend those, soften those edges. Yeah, that looks good. That looks really good. Now, I'm going to come in and work off this bottom one here. So we got all the dark stuff in. Pink that up. So what do we got? It kind of fluctuates from this carmine, like red, to darker reds. So I want to get me a little bit more. That's kind of a Quinn rose. Let me see what Quinn red does. And a carmine color is like an orangey red. Yeah, it's probably the Pyro red's closer to that. So I've got this here. That's kind of a brighter pink. This leaf here, okay, and maybe you can't see it as well, but it's this guy. So if you download it from the website, you'll see. Inside here. And there's some in here. Over in here, but we have that bit of darkness in here, so let's put that in there, and it's kind of wet into wet, so it'll spread, look really nice. Down at the base here, we have some red, dark, and it kind of goes up into here, so that looks good. Let me come back and do a little more. Yeah, that's looking really good. Then this area in here is all dark red. Get a little more water on my brush. Down here is that carmine color, so we're going to do that. I'm going to go with the pinkish in here. And what's nice is there's a little bit of wet, so the stuff will blend real nice. Sorry, those are my dogs. This gonna go with a little darker. I'm taking some of the alizarin crimson, mixing it with the pink, which is the watered down Quin Rose. And I'm gonna get this because I wanted to pull out a distinctly different shape in here. You know, it's the subtleness of the color changes and the blending that gives us the sense of petals. Come back in here and go down. Okay. This is dark. This is all dark. There's a lot of dark stuff going on in here. Now it gets light, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take water and pull some of that red over here. There we go. And then this is that carmine color up in here, which is just think of it as red with a touch of orange in it. And that's just because the light is getting through those petals. Same thing over here. Okay. And I'm going to have to, when this all dries, come in and erase some of these pencil lines out. It's looking pretty good, except I don't like this here. It just kind of stands out. I need this folds. Okay, now I'm going to let that dry. In the meantime, I dropped a little water there. I'll have to correct that. Come in with an exercise brush. Let's do some work on. Let's do two things. Let's do some work on the bottle. But before I do that, I want to put a blue wash across this. But I have to mask. I have to mask these petals and leaves down here. So give me a second. Let's go do this. So what I'm going to do is, because this is not paper white, right? There's shades in here, and it's this bluish reflection that is picking up. So what I want to do is all these objects I'm going to mask so I can get a nice gradient. So let's come in here and do that. Now this brush is shot. One of my cheap Amazon brushes, I buy just for this. Okay, I just got to get the sizing off it. Okay, much better. Shake this up, it's too thick at the top. This is important too. So again, I go back to you practicing your lines when you're doing any kind of painting to get a sense of it. And we're not done with that rose yet, so I just need it to dry. And you know, another thing, I've said it in other videos, but an important lesson is when you get up and walk away, or in some cases just stop on an area, because you might overwork it. You'll look at it and say, but you know, the colors settle in and change. I got a new little puppy. He's only like 15 weeks old, and he's a little terror. He's a Boston Terrier. I've got 2 Bostons and 1 Siberian. I don't think I have to mask that. I'm trying to think if a light blue will affect the red. You know what, I'm going to mask this guy. I'm not going to mask the petals. The reason I'm debating on the leaves is because putting that layer of dark over here anyways, it's going to be lighter than the dark green of the leaves. So the dark green will go over that and shouldn't affect it. But here I got to get these. Actually, I didn't need to get this, but that's okay. I wanted to get the red flower. Okay, I think I got everything. I'm going to touch this a little bit, so we'll let that dry. And then we'll come back in just a little bit. Okay, let's come in here now. Here's the thing is if we look at both of these, this one or this one, see, it's so much darker in here. You almost can't even see the leaf over here, right? And yet you can over here. So we got to darken that up. So I'm going to go in with more permanent alizarin, and I'll probably overlay it with dioxazine purple if that doesn't get it dark enough. So see what that's doing. It's just not getting it dark enough. Kind of like the way it looks though on paper when I'm looking at it. It's getting darker, but it's not dark enough. So let's go with the dioxazine purple. That's this guy here. I'm going to have to re-wet my sponge. So when I'm done with this, I'll pause and go re-wet my sponge. Let's see what that looks like. That looks good and dark, right? But it looks a little bit too dark compared to everything else. Okay, I'm just lifting a little bit of it out. And then let's see. Okay, so we got to darken this guy up. Okay, that looks kind of good. We have another really dark area in amongst here. Okay, and let's soften that edge. Okay, let me let that dry. I'll be right back after I wet my sponge. Okay, let's come in here and put the first layer on the leaves and then do a little more work on the bottle. So we'll use this brush for now. I'm going to use a light green. So let's mix our green. We're done with the rose, so we can get rid of this pink and the red. Well, we're done with the rose for the most part. Okay, let's see here. Let's mix up the lightest green we have in here. So it's kind of like a slate green. So do I have a green that I like? I'm going to see how this permanent green pale looks. It's not quite what I'm looking for. I got to gray it up a little bit. So to gray it up, we want to pick a complement color. So green is yellow and blue. So let's add a little bit of red into that. See what it gets us. It muddies up our green. Which is good. I mean, it's doing what we want. Okay, so I want to do one thing. Let me set my brush down. Actually, we're going to have to let this dry, so let's set the brush down. We got our green, but we got a mask. There's this highlight here, okay? We'll let that dry. So let's go do a little time on our bottle. So let's get this over here and compare these. Okay, you see it's still much darker up here at the top. So let's come in here with our anthraquinone blue, right? Dickens. It's my little Boston Terrier. He's like 6 weeks old. So it's still light up in here, but we gotta get a little darker in here. Much darker in here. Darker in here. Darker here. Okay. It's not very dark there, but what I want to do is to get the color, the contour, let's get our violety color in here. Okay, and then what I need to do is come over here. And we got a couple shades here, so I want to get a little more violet color in here. So let's add this in here. Get that. Put a little more blue. A little more cobalt. Okay, and I want to come down because it's a lighter blue in like around the center, in here and here. It's a little darker purple down in here. Okay, and that looks pretty good. And we'll come in here. Let's see here. Okay, let's come in here and add our greens. Okay. This is just our first layer. Okay. Don't worry. The white you see there is going to be black. Okay. Come in on the bigger rose picture. Okay. Okay, so that's just our base layer. Okay, we'll be adding detail, shading, all of that. We'll be working on that. Now, I'll come back to this bottle. Let's get the dark blue. And come in here. Okay, that's fine. Let's see how we're looking. We're looking pretty good. Who are you talking to? I'm sorry, that was my dog. Let's lift the highlights. In here. And let's lift these. Right? We're going to lift all the stuff in here. We're not going to lift the stuff on the lower page because I might want to put some more washes in there.
Come on.
Okay.
Daddy.
Hang on. That's my wife. Okay. Now I want to do the same down here. I want to put the first wash of green onto this. Okay, and that's just the first. Okay, we'll deal with the roses in a second. I don't want them bleeding into the green, so we'll leave that. And we'll come back in a minute. Oh, wait, there's one thing I want to do. I want to really wash this out. Let's really. Okay, I don't want these things to be so white, because they're not. Much better. Okay. Okay, let's come in and work on these leaves. So, if you recall, I cut the leaf out that's here, right? It's not there. So we're going to work on this guy here first. It's got the lightest color in, so let's go get us a little darker. Yeah. And we're going to cut this leaf in half. Okay. And this part's a little bit lighter, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of this dark and pull it over here and lighten it up. We're going to come in here. Don't worry, we'll still darken it up. Okay. We're going to just let that dry a little bit. We're going to go over here and get this next one here. That's, I think, a little bit of sap green. Yeah, like that. So the first one was hookers added to the lighter green we did earlier. Okay. I'm just diluting this a little bit. Come in here. Okay. And I want to get the lighter ones first. And let them dry. So now this is light in here, but it's dark down in here. So we're going to add some dark. Oh, that's looking really good. Okay. This is much darker over here. And that's pink. That'll be red in a couple minutes. And this is going to be really dark through here. There's some dark over here. Right? And then we've got this a little bit here. Oh, I really like that. Okay. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to put another layer of darkness into here. I'm going to do a little bit of wet and wet though. that's looking pretty good. I want to get a really dark green. I'm going to really get this dark. Okay, because I want to get these dark areas. This all in here is dark. And there's kind of a darkness in here, and a little bit over here. Okay, and then we're all, I mean, it's really dark in here. Right. That little dark piece there. Okay, that's starting to look really nice. Just a little darker in here. Brush and come in and just smooth this out a little bit. Okay. And then there's a shadow underneath this guy here. Right. I want to do some wet to wet here. Just kind of hit it with a little bit. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, those leaves are looking pretty good. Now down here, we're going to come in here with this color, maybe a little more sap. Okay, and we're going to paint this hole. We got to be really careful here because we got a white background, so we don't want to go out of it. I'm coming with the dark in here. Okay, and there's a shadow here. Just kind of dragging a little bit of pigment out with water, with a wet brush. Okay, and that's giving me my shadow. Okay. And then we're going to come in here on this guy, and let's see how he looks. Okay, so there's like a light. So we're going to go with like a lighter color up through here. And a lighter loop here. And then we're going to come in with a little bit of darker in here. And let me smooth that out. Yeah, and then I'll come in, I'll add some dark lines to that. Okay. Now this one back here in the background is mostly dark because of shadow. So it's got a little bit of light down here. I'm dampening my brush. I'm gonna smooth that out. Right? Then because it's darker up at the top, I'm going to darken that. There, that's pretty good. Now, I want to dampen this guy right in here. I'll come in here with the dark and just drop that pigment in there and then lift it out. Lift it out, lift it out. Now we'll put an edge along here. Okay. Give me some texture. I'm just trying to make some texture in there. Okay, that's not too shabby. And there's a little bit of a shadow here too, so let's come in here with the dark. Get a little bit of water. Okay, I'm going to come back and play with that a little bit. Let me just lift a couple creases in it. I'm using my lifting brush. Now I'm going to let that dry and I'll play around with that a little bit. Meanwhile, I want to come in here. I'm going to put some, it will be the Quin Rose. I thought I was done with the roses. Wet that up. I want to be careful because that green's still wet, so I'm just avoiding that side for the moment. Come over here. Okay, just getting my base pink in here. Okay, we got a lot of work to do on these flower petals. Got some more work to do on the green, but I need to let it dry for the moment. So we'll pause. Okay, let's come in here and do these rose petals. that are down here on the ground. So we're going to start with this one here. I'm just pre-wetting the paper. Okay. I'm coming with the alizarin crimson first. I need to get more of that. There we go, that's looking good. Let's get it even darker. I'm doing the wet on wet because it gives us smoother edges. Only problem that I have with textured paper, which have to do this exercise on smooth paper, is when you do wet into wet, it fragments. It like gives you that fractal sort of, rather than just a smooth out blend. So I'm kind of using a two brush method to come in here and smooth, give me some transitions. Okay, so that's looking better. Still a little darker up in here, which may end up requiring dioxazine purple, which is this guy here. And then it's got some of it in here. It's got just a tiny bit on the edge. Okay, I kind of like that. Let's just see how that dries. Now this guy here, we're going to go in with deep red first. It's not going to be enough because that's almost black. Okay, so just paint around this piece here. And again, this is always practice for good lines. Now what I'm going to do is lighten this area. Let's lift a little bit. Okay. That looks good. That looks really, really good. Okay, but we don't have the darkness, so let's grab some dioxazine. There we go. That looks really good. Okay, now here, we're going to do a little bit wet over in here. Right? A little wet over here. And come in here. Now, there's more pink over in there. So let's go in the red in the solid areas. I hope it bleeds into the areas that I wet, that I added water to. I like that. That looks nice and smooth. Now, there's a pattern under here, but I didn't include it. Okay, so we're going to grab some more dioxazine purple and we're going to put that shadow in here. And that shadow, I'm going to not use it so dark. Comes out. Okay, let me add a little red. Okay, that looks really good. At least from here it looks really good. We're not done up here. And we're going to lift and start working down here. Okay, let's come in here and do a little more work. I'm going to lift this guy, and we're going to work down here today. Okay, so let's go in here and examine this thing. So we got this inner green ring, so we're going to do that. It's kind of a grayish green, so we're going to go with this guy over here. Okay, which is the more muted gray that we were using up there. I mean greenish gray. I'm going to have to go with my eraser. I'm going to actually do the whole thing, because we'll come back when it dries and we'll have the darker side in. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do is this whole flower is this light pink. So it's the Quin Rose. So I'm being careful because the green is still a little bit wet. I'll come up and get the edge near the green once that dries. I just don't want the pink bleeding into it. Okay. That'll dry lighter. So we'll go in and do that. Let's come in here and... Okay. Now we're going to do these leaves that are around it. And that's going to be the same deal. We're going to use this lighter, the lighter green that we used in the center of the flower. And we're going to come in, we're going to do this. So... I'm just putting another layer on that. that flower was just an outline. So I messed that up, but it's okay. Let's rinse that out. Come here and get this. We want to do these flowers. There's one out here. There's one right here. Okay. Now let's come in here and add the darker green. Okay. There's a little line through here.
Come on, buddy.
Hey, what's up? You're just trying to get those lines to look good. Right. Do the same thing here because I shouldn't have painted this one in. So you can skip it and do it right. Okay, we'll let that dry. I'm going to come in here and do this.
Do you need this one?
Okay. We're coming in here, we're doing the inside of these flowers. Okay, so that's looking pretty good, but what I want to do is the lines, right, are done with like this green. So we're going to just come in and very gently do that. We're just outlining the flower, believe it or not, it's like this greenish brown lines. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I'm going to come in with some pink in a minute to add to the red once the red's dried. You know, just for lines coming out into this. Let's see if I can't do it this way. Yeah, that looks good. Okay. Now let's come in here and put our pink down. It's Quinn Rose. We paint these flowers in here. Okay, and then those are green. Don't worry, we're going to come back. We got stuff to do. Let me add some water in here. We're going to paint these leaves that are in here. Okay, we'll let that dry. We'll come back. Now I left this stuff out. Okay, we've got these lines to do. I want to think about how I'm going to do them. We're going to use the liner. Okay, this is the number 2 Barcioni Bonsai, and this is a green. So I want to make these things as even and perfect as possible. Again, good practice on lines, on drawing lines. Easy peasy. Again, you just remember, you don't look at where you're at. You look at where you're going to, and your lines will go much smoother. You know, the hardest part is controlling your downward pressure on the brush, so you don't get these bulges. Okay, that looks really good. Now, let's come in here with some more of this Quinn Rose. I'm just going to add some like little lines in here, some texture. Okay, now the next thing we want to do is these areas that are a little bit right over here. We want to get this shape back. Okay, and I'm going to outline this. Outline this. Outline this. Okay, we got a little more work on the leaves up there, but if you look, it's looking pretty good. What I'm going to do is you can see the red in here isn't dark enough, so I'm going to go to this dioxazine and I'm going to put some of that in there. So in here, That's looking better. Okay, so this up here, we need to make this red. I'm going to go with my darkest green here. Yeah, that looks good. Gotta lift this off. Okay, and I'm going to just do that light green. I don't want it to be white. Then I'm going to lift. There, that looks better. Now, come in here. That looks pretty good. I like it. I think we're in a really good place. I do want to darken this bottle up here a little bit. Just on the side. I like that. That's better. Okay, let's take the tape off and see what it looks like. That looks pretty good. I think I'm really happy with that. You know, we got something that looks like flowers. It actually looks, I think, better than the photograph. If you look at the photograph, the flower loses some of the detail. I think we did a better job on the petals. And, you know, we got our folds, we got our pattern, we got our petals and whatnot. So I think we're good. You know, thanks very much. Hey, thanks for watching our video today. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, click like below and hit subscribe below as well. And leave me any comments. I wouldn't mind any criticism, advice, things we could do better, things we're doing right. Again, thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. And check out our website if you get a chance. It's www.light-sculpture.com. Thanks again for watching our video.